Hey guys, welcome to a new video. I'm on the Danish island of Fanø. Hope I pronounce it kind of correct. This island is basically in the middle of the Wadden Sea National Park up here in Denmark. So what I hope to see, apart from a flat island with cute little houses on it, is a lot of wildlife, particularly seals and a lot of birds. Also, you're gonna see me riding a bike, which is really rare because I hate riding bicycles. Fanø is an island in the North Sea, only reachable by ferry in about 10 minutes from the city of Esbjerg. It has around 3,500 permanent residents, while it welcomes around 100,000 tourists a year. Most of them arrive during summer or the famous kite festival. There is also much history on Fanø, from classic Danish thatched roof houses to World War II bunkers that plaster mainly the north of the island. A personal highlight is definitely the wildlife you can find on and around Fanø. Apart from a huge variety of birds, you can also find harbour and grey seals here. And that's basically the reason why I decided to come to Fanø. And for some of them you don't even have to walk far. Just about 100 meters from the harbour where the ferries arrive and leave appears a sandbank when the tide is low. And this is exactly where the seals of Nordby, the main town of Fanø, rest in the sun. What you can see here are harbour seals, the most common seal species worldwide. They mainly feed on fish, crustaceans and mollusks. Their whiskers help them identifying water movements to detect prey, dangers or other seals in quirky waters. They have a pretty thick coat of fat under their skin called blubber, which keeps the environment in cold waters and is a great reserve if food is scarce. They are also... goddamn, look how cute this little shit is. They're amazing. Okay. They're also very curious and come very close to humans while swimming. Outside of the water they are rather careful, cause their bodies are just not meant for prolonged use on land. They kinda appear like huge, clumsy caterpillars. Thankfully in the water they are great hunters and surprisingly fast and agile. While the harbour seal is not particularly threatened, their populations in the Wadden Sea is slowly declining in the last couple of years. So far it's not clear if the main cause is disturbance by humans, pollution or destruction of their habitat, or the growing population of grey seals in the area. However, like always when spotting wildlife, it is important to keep distance to the animals and by all means not disturb them in any way, no matter how curious they may be. So Fanø was not always the holiday island of half of Germany or idyllic wildlife hotspot that you can see today. There were also times of war, and from up here you get an idea of how many bunkers there were on the whole island. Actually, I'm standing on one right now. A few kilometers north of Nordby you find a huge amount of bunkers, half buried in sand, slowly sinking into the dunes. They are silent relics of a darker chapter of Europe's history. During World War II, the German army built thousands of bunkers along the coast of occupied countries. Together they formed what was called the Atlantic Wall, a chain of defenses stretching from Norway to the French border with Spain. Fanø, lying just off the west coast of Denmark, became part of this line. Hundreds of bunkers and fortifications were constructed here. They housed heavy artillery, radar stations and troops, all meant to protect against an Allied invasion that never came. For the people of Fanø, the war years meant living side by side with this military presence. The island turned into a fortress. Today most of the bunkers are abandoned. Some have been claimed by the shifting sands, others stand exposed to the wind and waves. They've lost their original function, but they remain powerful reminders. Nature has softened their edges, yet their presence still tells stories of occupation, fear, and the immense resources poured into a war that reshaped Europe. Exploring them now, we see more than ruins. We see history etched into the landscape, history that will slowly but never fully disappear beneath the sand. You see some of these bunkers, they are visible at first sight, but others, like this one back there, it's so well hidden. I didn't know that it was there until I was standing right next to it. This is the natural landscape of the island, and they perfectly fit in. So if you don't see any concrete standing out, then you don't realize that all these are bunkers. Maybe this is a bunker as well. Maybe the whole island is a bunker. I start to question everything. Oh god, oh god, oh god. Completely flooded. Oh wow. Oh wow. So some people did a really good job. Wow, look at that. Wow. Yeah, there's actually light coming. Not bad. If you ask yourself if I'm scared or at least spooked when I'm doing stuff like this, yes I am. Absolutely. Absolutely. This frog. Oh my god. There's another one. There's a frog population down here. It gives off so much Fallout vibes. Up there in the nest is a baby barn swallow. So at the entrances where it's still bright, they put their nests. Electric fence. Oh wow, it's a huge room. Oh, okay. So some of these constructions are also only used to house the soldiers. I can't guarantee it, but this kind of seems like this would have been a huge dorm, kind of. Look how huge the walls have been. Wow. And some of these old bunkers have a new purpose, way more peaceful than serving in wars. So this one turned into a really nice little hideout to watch the birds in this wetland over there. I found out what this building was actually used for. The Donau, so the German name for Danube, was a heat detecting device. It could spot different targets at impressive distances, around 12 kilometers for small fast boats, 16 kilometers for submarines, and up to 40 kilometers for large warships. It was also highly precise and had one big advantage. Unlike normal observation equipment, it worked just as well at night. First I thought there were only a bunch of ducks, starlings and swallows in this wetland, but I soon figured out that I just had to look and listen more carefully. So I just heard the northern lapwing, keep it in German. They are quite rare where I come from, at least. I heard them, but I'm not sure if I know where they are. I have to look for them. Let's see. The northern lapwing is a medium-sized wading bird recognized by its black and white plumage, shimmering green back and long head crest. Well, it breeds across Europe and Asia, favoring wet meadows, pastures and farmlands with open ground for nesting. Lapwings are famous for their tumbling flight displays and their loud call, which gave the species its English name. Nests are shallow scrapes on the ground and adults protect their young with distraction displays, pretending to be injured to lure predators away. Once very common, the northern lapwing has declined sharply due to habitat loss and modern farming practices, and today it's a species of conservation concern across much of Europe. So it's really interesting to sit here and spot, because there is one raptor, one bird of prey, and it's a harrier. So as soon as this bird comes close, the first ones that make alarm are the lapwings, but the swallows, there are so many of them that as soon as it arrives, there are like a cloud of them surrounding the harrier, and then it immediately backs off. It's really interesting to watch. So that was really nice. I actually expected this place to be rather empty from afar, but the longer I was here, the more species I saw. It was pretty cool. And I never thought that using a bunker as a birding hideout would be on my bucket list, but apparently it was, and I'm happy I can tick it off now. Let's slowly go to the other side of the island. The campground I stayed at was only a few hundred meters away from the sea. How far away the sea actually is depends massively on the tide. Due to the flat beaches that reach far into the water, the change of water level during high and low tide has a huge impact on how far the water gets away. During low tide, a lot of mussels and other creatures get exposed to the terrestrial life. That's the perfect time for shorebirds to go on a hunt. For example, the oyster catcher. While its name is a little misleading as they rarely eat oysters, they still use the beak to open mussels and other shellfish. They also eat invertebrates and crustaceans. They are migratory birds and can be found along the Atlantic coastline throughout summer, while they spend the winter on the Mediterranean coast and further down in Africa. They mate in early spring and usually nest directly on rocky shores, where they hide their eggs between similar-looking stones. Oyster catchers live monogamous most of the time, provided the breeding was successful. Sadly, as it is with many birds worldwide, their numbers are declining, mainly due to habitat destruction and disturbance by humans. So let's get to the south of the island, where you can find the town of Fanö. Until 1696, the farmers of Fanö had to bring the grain to the royal mill in Ribe, a journey that was often difficult or even impossible in winter. In 1701, the village of Sonderhö built its own mill, but over the centuries it suffered from disputes, fires and even lightning strikes. After the last fire in 1894, it was rebuilt in 1895 as the more efficient Dutch-style gallery mill that still stands today. The mill operated until 1923 but declined due to reduced farming and competition from steam mills. Since 2003 it has served as a museum, occasionally grinding grain for special events. Actually, it should be possible to go inside the mill and see the museum during summer, but on this day the door was locked. Here you can also find some of the thatched roof houses. Thatched roof houses have been part of Danish life for centuries, once the most common form of rural housing. Farmers used locally available reeds and straw, which provided good insulation against Denmark's cold and wet climate. These houses were often timber framed, with thick whitewashed walls and low sloping thatched roofs designed to withstand wind and rain. By the late 19th and 20th century, thatch declined as tiled and slate roofs became cheaper and easier to maintain. Today, thatched houses survive mostly as cultural treasures and protected heritage, symbolizing Denmark's rural past and traditional craftsmanship. Then it was time to look for a second seal species that can be found on Fanö, the grey seal. And I heard they can be seen during low tide, resting on a sandbank just south of the island. That being said, while low tide, the way to the sea can become quite far. This is absolutely unique environment. I've never been in a place like this before. It's absolutely crazy. Look at all the stuff like. So now, obviously, we have a bit of low tide because the sea is far, far back there. I hope you can hear me. And back there are some sandbanks. And I mean, it's still a bit far, but I think I can see seals. The grey seal is the largest seal species in Denmark, and today it has returned to the coast of Fanø in the Wadden Sea National Park after being absent for more than 100 years. This protected tidal landscape is now home to Denmark's biggest seal population, with thousands of harbour seals and several hundred grey seals sharing the sandbanks. Adult males can reach up to 3 meters in length and weigh more than 300 kilos, while females are smaller but still powerful hunters. Their diet includes cod, herring, flatfish and sometimes squid or octopus. And they can dive over 100 meters deep, staying underwater for up to 15 minutes. Grey seals live around 25 to 35 years and females often outlive the males. Breeding season takes place in winter, and in recent years more and more pups have been born right here on the sandbanks around Fanø. Clear evidence of a growing population. The newborn pups, covered in fluffy white fur, are nursed with extremely rich milk and can triple their weight in just a few weeks. Each grey seal has a unique pattern of spots in its fur, like a fingerprint, allowing scientists to identify individuals and study their movement across the North Sea. Although they look heavy and awkward on land, in the water they are fast, agile and can twist and turn like torpedoes. Another surprising fact, grey seals can sleep underwater by shutting down half of the brain at a time, a trick that helps them rest while staying alert to predators and currents. On Fanø, these animals are now not only a protected species, but also a symbol of successful conservation in the Wadden Sea, where nature and wildlife still dominate the rhythm of life. Some of them are super playful. Right guys, it's time to leave Fanø again, but for now we gotta say goodbye to the cute fluffy seals. So that was a cool little trip to Fanø. I saw seals in the wild for the first time in my life, which is pretty cool. Overall, the island, despite being full with tourists during August, is really chill and calm, which I love. I didn't know about the bunkers before getting here, so that was a cool feature that I enjoyed. Well, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and as always, I really
Hope to see you guys next time. Bye!